Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some, well, highly unusual ancient religious metaphors, and we'll be doing it through the lens of the renowned Islamic scholar, Bediuzzaman Said Nursi. We're going to dive right into some imagery that, at first glance, might seem totally bizarre to us today. But stick with me, because as we'll see, these ancient words actually hold incredible, layered depth about human desire, the limits of our language, and the very nature of a perfect existence.
Okay, let's jump right in. This is an Islamic hadith, a recorded saying of the Prophet Muhammad, and it describes heavenly companions, known as Houris. It says, although the Houris are clothed in 70 garments, the marrow of their leg bones may be seen. Now, let's be real for a second. To our modern ears, that sounds less like a beautiful description of paradise and more like, I don't know, an intense anatomy class. Visually, it might even seem a bit unsettling. It is an incredibly specific, hyper-physical piece of imagery straight from the source text.
So, what does this all mean? In his analysis, Nursi actually poses the exact same question you're probably asking yourself right now. What sort of meaning can this possibly have? What kind of beauty is this supposed to describe? If we get stuck on the literal anatomical words, garments, bones, marrow, we are completely missing the point. We've got to look beyond the literal text to figure out what it's actually trying to tell us about ultimate satisfaction.
To crack this code, we really need to adopt Nursi's foundational shift in perspective. Right now, we're essentially trying to measure a multi-dimensional infinite existence using our extremely limited three-dimensional tape measure. It just doesn't work. We have to completely rethink what matter and beauty actually are.
Think about it like this. Nursi describes our earthly reality as relatively inanimate. It's mostly just a husk or a shell. Down here, earthly beauty is pretty superficial. It's enough for our eyes to enjoy the surface, right? Just as long as we don't look too deeply. But the reality of paradise? That is entirely the essence. It's pure, living reality stripped of that protective outer shell, radiating brilliantly from the inside out.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. If we take this essence versus husk framework and apply it directly back to our original, puzzling metaphor of the garments in the marrow, it completely changes the context. If a perfect realm has no barriers to obscure beauty, well, how does human perception operate? It operates without limits.
Let's walk through the metaphor step by step. In our current world, beauty is basically just for the physical eye. But Nursi explains that humans are incredibly complex. In a state of ultimate perfection, every single human sense and subtle faculty wants its own unique pleasure. So the top garments represent what delights the eye. But as you move deeper, through our inner senses, our complex feelings, and right down to our most subtle, immaterial faculties, that is what is meant by seeing down to the marrow. The metaphor is illustrating the absolute, unfiltered fulfillment of every single layer of human perception, all experiencing joy at the exact same time.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is that these 70 garments aren't just, literal items of clothing in a heavenly wardrobe. Instead, they represent overlapping layers of profound physical, spiritual, and immaterial adornment. And miraculously, in this framework, none of these layers conceal the others. They all exist at once to perfectly satisfy our boundless, complex capacity for joy. It's just a highly poetic way of saying that every single part of you that is enamored of beauty and yearns for loveliness will be completely and utterly gratified.
That shifts our perspective beautifully, doesn't it? Suddenly, a bizarre image becomes this profound commentary on human desire. But Nursi doesn't stop there. He tackles another piece of ancient imagery to really cement this idea. And this one deals with the actual mechanics of living in absolute perfection.
There's another hadith regarding the people of paradise, and it states, since in paradise there are no unnecessary, extraneous waste matters, the people of paradise will not excrete waste after eating and drinking. Once again, the source material is using physical, biological extremes to convey a state of perfect, unblemished existence. It's taking a very gritty, earthly, biological reality and completely removing the imperfections.
But as focused learners digging into this explainer, we naturally have to ask the logical, biological query. How can physical life exist, consume nourishment, and just not produce waste? In our earthly day-to-day experience, consumption and waste are two sides of the exact same coin. You literally can't have one without the other. So how does Nursi make logical sense of this biological impossibility without just brushing it off as magic?
He does it by pointing to an incredibly elegant, observable analogy right from our own backyards: trees. Earthly trees take in massive amounts of nourishment from the sun, the water, and the soil. Yet they don't excrete waste in the dirty, extraneous way that animals do. Therefore, he argues, if a simple earthly tree can exist and thrive without excreting waste, it makes perfect logical sense for the highest class of life in a realm entirely free of extraneous matter to do exactly the same.
What we are really seeing here is honestly a masterclass in how to read ancient texts. Whether it's the imagery of 70 transparent garments or the idea of biology without waste, this analysis reveals a crucial underlying lesson. Ancient religious texts use these intense physical extremes simply as vehicles. They're conceptual tools meant to help our limited, earthbound minds grasp realities that are essentially indescribable and multidimensional. And this all builds to a defining conclusion, found in this powerful quote from the Quran. There will be there all that the souls could desire, and all that the eyes could delight in. This serves as the ultimate summary of Nursi's entire philosophical thesis. The hyperspecific imagery of garments, the visible marrow, the biology of trees, they're all just serving this one central beautiful idea, the complete, absolute, and unhindered satisfaction of the human soul in all its complexity.
So, as we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. When we read descriptions of perfect realms or ultimate realities, we're always trying to translate the infinite into the finite. How do we use our limited physical language to capture realities that are ultimately far beyond our earthly senses? The next time you encounter a seemingly bizarre or impossible metaphor in an ancient text, don't just dismiss it. Ask yourself, what profound hidden essence is this husk of words trying to reveal to you? Thank you so much for joining me to decode this text. Keep asking great questions, and we'll see you next time as we explain more fascinating source material.